The breakout session you're in is social, a call for creating social spaces and support for the aging LGBT. For this session, we're having two moderators. You get me, and you get Candace Thompson. We both serve on the board for the Coalition for Aging LGBT. And your panelists today, I'm not going to go into a detailed bio. You can look at their bios in your book. Barb Hochet, who you've already met through his presentation in the general session, is leads our research committee for the board. Candy Markham is a life coach and counselor. And Daniel is with the Community Council of Greater Dallas. So he's going to bring the social network conversation to the room as well. The format that we're going to follow, Jeannie Rubin is our scribe. And so, as I mentioned in my opening lecture, what we're going to try to do is capture action items from this group that we will take back to our board and actually develop programming from. But to open, I need 2 or 3 of you to tell us why you chose this particular breakout session. And if I could have a volunteer run this mic, I would be very grateful. We've got to all use this mic because this particular session is being filmed. If 2 of you will just agree to tell us why you chose this breakout session, that I think it could sort of set the mood.
My name's Mary Lee King. I live in Plano, but I work at Highland Springs, which is a senior living, independent living community.
It's like, what do you want to get from this workshop, from this breakout? Is there something you want to get?
Hello. My name's Adam Johnson. I live in far north Dallas, and I'm just searching for volunteer opportunities to give back and support the aging LGBT community in Dallas. The company I work for, Celanese Corporation, has a LGBT resource group that's always looking for opportunities to give back to the community. So I'm here scouting volunteer opportunities. So.
Great.
Okay, great. I think that gives us an idea. We're going to jump right into it. But again, if you've got questions, write them down on those index cards and we're going to take them.
And if you all could be my spell check.
I'm going to start by letting Candy.
So, you mean that what the folks just said? Okay, that just threw me that one, didn't he? Yeah. Okay. I think it's wonderful that we have younger people in here who want to volunteer, want to know more about aging. It could be people that are in your life. It could be your parents. It could be a neighbor. You know, we're just everywhere. So I just love that you want to help. And, you know, I think being LGBT is genetic. I just do. I'm sure there's a doctor in here. Let's say I'm wrong. But I just think it is. And if you would look at our genes, I think you would find that part of being LGBT is that we're real sweet people. We're good people. And you're a good person for wanting to help. And for you, 58 years old, honey, you're just chicken is what I want to say. I mean, you just barely got your AARP card. But I think you're smart to look to the future. I think that all of us should prepare ourselves for aging. If we're lucky, we will age. And let's think about what we want our life to look like that would give us meaning. Because like I said, I don't want to quit having meaning in my life at 65 and live to be 90. So I like what you want to do is let's find ways to live long in a beneficial way and in a meaningful way. I think that's great.
Okay, yeah, I'm good at curveballs.
I would like for. Can y'all hear me? Yes. Okay.
We need it on here.
Well, I guess. Oh,
I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, so what I would like to hear from our esteemed panel here is what brings you here, and what gifts and talents do you have to add to the discussion in regards to social services for our aging LGBT community?
We certainly saw Bart's already. I mean, this man is a whiz.
Well, I definitely have an interest in the community for sure. And the most of the research that I focus on through my research team at North Texas is around LGBT psychosocial issues. And so that's essentially about human communication and interaction and how we build community and how we take part in it. And so certainly at the individual level, our ability to find and participate in community activities, groups of people with similar interests. This is huge, particularly with aging communities where just by nature of progressing in years, our network can become smaller and smaller if we don't actively try to keep enlarging it. Keep ourselves active, keep ourselves engaged in finding new interests. And like Candy said, beyond 65, like don't get to the point where you think life is over and you have another 25 or 30 years to go. So definitely something I'm interested in too.
All right. Well, I'm here because I met you and you invited me, and I'm really, really excited to represent the Community Council of Greater Dallas, which we have the services, we have the programs, we have the access, but I think I want to learn what else can we do as a Community Council of Greater Dallas to help the LGBT aging. I think the goal for us in Community Council just to help seniors have better quality of life, a longer life, but I want to know what can I do to help the LGBT community.
That's perfect. That leads me right into where I wanted to go, and that is, as a reminder, the Coalition for Aging LGBT is going to take action items, create programming. So let's focus for the next few minutes on what sort of programming we need to move toward, that we need to develop in the next year. But I think it's important, and I'm going to throw another curveball to you. I think it's important that we understand what an LGBT senior dealing with isolation, what does that look like? And Candy does know that because we've talked about that at length. So let's see what that individual looks like, and then you be thinking of programs to address the gaps in services today. Put it on your index card, and Candace wants to cover those with you.
So, did you know that 34% of LGBT elder Americans live alone? 32% of us are concerned about being lonely or growing older. 40% of us report shrinking networks. In some places, you may not feel safe coming out. A lot of this is what you said earlier today. You've lived your life by living in a mainstream neighborhood. You were friendly with your neighbors, but you never really got to know them. You work daily at your job, but having only a professional relationship with your coworkers. You go to church on Sundays, but you don't get involved with the church by volunteering or staying afterwards to socialize. You go home. You've paid your taxes every year. You mow the lawn. You probably have the most beautiful house on the block. You've taken care of others in your family and not much time for yourself. You never had children. Retiring at 65 but never asking what's next. You've had some friends along the way, but they've either not in your everyday life or they moved. Your parents have died. Your siblings have either died or have their hands full taking care of their families. They're on a budget. You're on a budget. You're single. You either were never in a long-term relationship or your partner has died. As you retired, your world is becoming smaller and smaller. You don't have enough money to go on trips or join clubs. You don't want to take on a hobby or join in on LGBT functions. You were never really connected to the LGBT community, thinking all the time all you really needed was your partner or your career or your solitude. You find yourself lonely and scared. Some days you don't even get out of bed. If you do, you don't take a shower. Who cares? Who am I going to see? You don't eat as well as you should. You don't go to the dentist or the doctor. You never phone out and no one phones in. You know, people's lives go on. If you don't contact them, if they don't see you or hear you, you're forgotten. Gee, that Candy Markham, whatever happened to her? Has anyone seen or heard from her lately? I wonder if she's still around. Or more, if she's still alive. Life has lost all meaning for you, and you are depressed. As I said before, you don't want to stop having a meaningful life at 65 and live till you're 90. So, how do I help myself live a long life that is satisfying and meaningful? Now, I have some things that answer the question, what makes my life meaningful? But I thought as we went on with this session that maybe you all can come up with some things that make your life meaningful. I mean, when I was younger, I played tennis. When I got older, I play golf. You know, I don't know what's slower than golf, but I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so out of everything that Candy has said, what would you say is the overarching thing that you can draw from that? Anybody picked up on the biggest thing that stood out from what she was saying? Yes, sir.
We sometimes isolate ourselves and don't reach out. There's a lot of opportunities. It seems like church groups, we go there, they create opportunities for us, but we don't take advantage of them. So,
thank you.
So we need to try to take advantage of the opportunities that come our way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so isolation. And so I'm going to piggyback off of what Candy had asked us here in the group. What would you say are things, because I think we have a pretty diverse group here in the room. What would you say are the things, and feel free to use your note cards or we're going to have a conversation, are the things that would make life more meaningful? And also what Cannon had asked us to do in thinking of terms of programming. Like, what could we possibly do as a coalition? Because we are all a part of the coalition now. You're here. You've been indoctrinated. You've been recruited, and now you're in the gang. But but we need to understand, like, what are the programs that are needed, to be able to help our community in regards to social services? Because we don't want to leave anybody out. And so when you look around in this room, who are the groups of people that you feel are your friends or that are left out of this conversation, who are not present, who also have feelings and things that they could contribute to this? Everybody at the same time.
I just want to say I think we have the perfect gathering place with the new community center. And once you have a location and it's large enough and certainly support staff to make that all happen in the vision and the strategy, they know the community, then they create the opportunity through programming, and hopefully then the community, the seniors, can help fund that in a way to give back and to create a fellowship opportunity, educational opportunity, no matter what category it falls in. But I think with the new community center, we're better prepared now to serve the community at large and certainly the aging LGBT sector.
So, we have the audiences here. So what would you say as an audience are the programmings that is needed within the LGBT aging community? Yes, Lex.
I think that something that we could do or something that needs to be done is more of a cross-generational kind of programming, something where not only do we remind our younger generations how relevant our older generation is, but kind of reminding the older generation of how relevant they are themselves. Kind of like what they were talking about earlier, just taking an interest in themselves again and remembering who they were and sharing that history and passing it along. I think it's something that's missing in the community and something that we need desperately.
that they have a lot of things to do, whether it's teaching a citizenship class for people who want to become citizens, teaching English as a second language classes. There's a huge demand and nowhere enough teachers. So if you know English, you have a valuable skill that you're relevant. We need you.
Can I make sort of a framing statement as well about this? I think, of course, we're all going to look to the Resource Center and to the programming that's done there, and they're going to play a huge role. I think we have to be careful not to saddle all of the responsibility there. That's probably our first our first reaction might be to do that. When we look at the number of people that are in this group that are aging, and by the year 2030, it is such a huge group. One of the things we talk about a lot is that we do not, nor will we have, the resources needed to build out new facilities, to make the Resource Center big enough and to staff it enough to handle this large number of people. And so what has to happen is this integration, like you were saying, between the generations, but between gay people and straight people and organizations that are serving ethnic minorities and LGBT people. So anything new has to be sort of built with that design in mind. Existing infrastructure and programming and resources have to be sort of retrofitted to be accepting and welcoming and focus on LGBT communities too. So maybe we can think about ways that we should be doing that too.
Okay. We have Scott.
Thank you, and thanks for this program. So Mary's question observation and sharing, which I appreciate, begs a question: would people respond to a buddy program? There's probably not an idea that'll come up. I love a brainstorm. Everybody loves a brainstorm. There's probably not an idea that'll come up today that Cannon hadn't thought of already. But what will critical mass support? That's what the issue is. We could come up with 50 ideas, but you can only fund, let's say, 2. So what are the highest priorities? Is a buddy system a high priority? I don't know. Who would respond to that?
We have thought of the buddy system, and I do also want to stick with the brainstorming idea, because that's really what we want. We want to throw a lot of ideas up here. And so the buddy system was very effective as a reminder to everyone in the worst of the AIDS crisis. During those years, the bond in that buddy program, it was like your brother, and you checked on them frequently, and you were their lifeline, basically. And we need to revisit that in our community. We need to bring it back. The other thing that was mentioned is the intergenerational. And we know the value of that. From an anthropological viewpoint, we know the value of that. We've lost so much as a culture because the whole respect structure that many of us in this room were taught by a grandparent or a great aunt or uncle, this generation does not have. And when we move away from many of the social issues and political issues, you'll see that lack of respect play itself out. And somehow we need to find a way to get that back as well. I think the way to get that back is, as you've suggested, creating intergenerational programming. We've got, and I'm just throwing this out, we've got Youth First Texas that's very active. The Resource Center has made efforts too with Gray Pride. Somehow we need to take it a step further and not, as Bart said, it doesn't have to be through the Resource Center. I mean, we can utilize the resources that are out there, but there's many facilities and many ways to get this done. Senior Source, as an example, in Dallas has a huge program for checking on, or what they call a buddy program. There's federal funding for programs like that. So there is some structure that we can put around that sort of programming. And I think what's going to be most effective for us in the short time that we've got today is, I do want an intergenerational program. Our entire board wants an intergenerational program. But what does that look like? And the supper club, any kind of social gathering, Marion, that y'all are doing, the grassroots, it sounds like it's an effective way because you've built up. So how do we build that same grassroots sort of culture in shifting this resources toward aging?
I'm here as a member of LULAC 4871. We're the Rainbow Council. I'm actually the current president. And we have many members who are here. We have senior members and we have our younger generation. This is actually a topic that we've been talking, which is intersectionality. You know, I'm not just a Latino, I'm not just gay, I'm not just young, old, or anything. What we have coming up here within the coming year, we have 2 events that are coming up. One of them is our education summit that we do every year in response to Pride. And we actually wanted to work with a couple of different groups. We're trying to reach out to Youth First Texas to get them involved for a youth portion. And we also wanted to reach out to the coalition to have you involved also. I think that it's important to get people in the same space, have your own conversations, and then bring those conversations together. The second event that we're working on is actually our World AIDS Day event. This year we want to have a generational crosstalk. Last year we filmed a movie that was done, and then we had a crosstalk just between basically the same people that you always see. This year we want to do something that we're calling a generational crosstalk, and we want to have different members of groups in the room together to talk about the experiences that they had in the past and how those experiences are still being had now today with our new generations.
Excellent. Just very quickly, I want to tell you, Candace Thompson chairs the Social Services Committee of our board. So these ideas that you're throwing out, yeah, I need y'all to make contact, because the way we make that happen is through her committee. Then we get involved. Okay, there's a question in the back here.
Yeah. My name's Alan Josephson. I'm from the Dallas area. I really like the ideas I'm hearing, and I love the calendar idea. 20 years ago, I found gay and lesbian square dancing. And there's a large senior population of it. It's, all around the country. It's great physical, mental exercise. It's great socializing. It's just an incredible thing. But, like, how do you get the words out about things like this? It's, we would love to have people. We're going to have classes and things like that. So I really want to, it's partially an advertisement, but I also want to understand how we can plug into this, because this is a great demographic for us.
Okay.
Aren't there senior centers in a lot of communities already? Could you not have information? Because the seniors go to the senior center all day, games all night, and pools and such. So it may be harder in the suburban area, obviously, to find but at least that could be a start to
right. And we are
integration.
partnering with those. But again, what we found is so many in the aging LGBT community, they're afraid to go into those centers. And so there's a whole education and acceptance process that somebody's going to have to walk through.
For good reason, a lot of times they're afraid to go there.
I want to take the next couple of minutes and focus on Daniel. I think there's several components to isolation. We've talked about the social side of volleyball and going to events and such. But when we talk about isolation and depression, I think that there's complicating factors. Whether it's, do I have adequate health care? Do I have adequate housing? And many times people in our community, you will never know until their health is completely to a state of almost death that they even need help. And many in our community who are baby boomers started AIDS organizations, started HIV service organizations. And then as they age and develop health problems, they're very unlikely to go back to those same agencies and ask for help. And so what we have to do is become very smart when we see that sort of behavior in maybe through our buddy system or whatever. But I sort of wanted Daniel to talk just a minute again about health care and access to health care and home issues that could drive a person into isolation.
Well, thank you. And I think that's a good beginning, the social part, and going to play volleyball and, meeting and talking. But here's where I come in maybe and the programs that Community Council has for the community. Of course, we have, we house the Area Agency on Aging, which again, it's a federal funded program that has access to many, many different services for the aging community, for the seniors. But we want to be connected with the LGBT, and we're trying to find a way to be connected and be able to provide those services. You were talking about housing. There's programs that we have about housing, transportation. I think it's very, very important to get to point A and B. To get to the doctor, we have a whole program called My Ride Dallas. It's just a new grant that we received. And for those going into early retirement that don't have health insurance through an employer, retired at 60, Medicare doesn't kick in until 65. We do have the Affordable Care Act program to help you find affordable health care through the marketplace. So as the program manager and director of healthcare services for the Community Council, my goal is to provide healthcare to the whole family. And of course, starting for CHIP and Medicaid, because we do have services to help CHIP and Medicaid, but I want to be able to have access to seniors and how we can help them other ways, not just Medicare. So of course, Affordable Care Act, and there's so many other programs that we are just trying to connect. It is going to be our first year, Community Council, to be in Pride, and we are very, very happy. We are going to have a booth providing information on healthcare, and I am partnering with CMS and Health and Human Services, of course. They're bringing a whole information on Out to Enroll, which is our huge campaign with the LGBT community to make sure everybody is connected to healthcare. So have my information if anybody wants more information on Community Council.
And we have an ad box next week. I'm working with
Oh, very good.
It's the first ad box I can think of for an agency that is specifically targeting the LGBT community and has set aside grant money to help communicate.
Yes. And if you'll recall, our 211 services is also coming through the Community Council of Greater Dallas. The way the Coalition for Aging operates, we're very careful not to reinvent anything that already exists. What we want to do is clamp on existing services and add that LGBT sensitivity to it. The Community Council of Greater Dallas is a perfect example. 3 months ago, I met with Martha Blaine, who was the CEO of the Community Council of Greater Dallas, who committed exactly what Chris said to me. She said, Kenan, we've got millions of dollars to help you with this. Call on us. So my challenge to you is, as we think of these personal issues that people deal with that drives them into isolation, let us know. We can work with existing services. We can work with the Community Council. We can work with the Resource Center and put on this aging component to those existing services. Candace and I will meet again with the interim director of Community Council next week to push these programs even further. So there is hope for us. Do you want to sum up, Candace?
I did, but is it time? Oh, goodness. Can we answer one question off of the... We have one question. No, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to, because we are in Plano and about half of our participants today are not Dallas-based, and because we're talking about isolation, I do just want to remind people that to drive from Frisco to Dallas, if your eyesight's getting not so great, and so I think we need to keep in mind that not all of our LGBT people live in Dallas, and that the people who are more apt to be isolated are the people who don't live in Dallas, who can't easily get to the Resource Center, who don't have public transportation, and those are the people that we need to keep in mind. I mean, Gala is a very small nonprofit, but we do try and, that's why we are willing to partner with anyone. So You want a square dance north of 635? Come on. But we're all about partnering because we are so small, but we want to be, cognizant that our folks really are likely to be isolated as they get older, because they are sort of what Candy was describing, the people, out in their little houses, their little ticky-tacky houses, sort of all by themselves. So.
All right. Well, we are down to 2 minutes. Thank you. Yes. Get the microphone, please. Oh, okay.
You have 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah.
1 minute, that's all I need.
Okay.
A free elder Uber service would do more. I have a car that is 3 years old and has 17,000 miles on it.
Okay.
I don't like to drive.
I don't either. Okay. Good. All right. Thank you. I just thank you all for being here with us. Thank you. Special thank you to our sponsors for this event. It would not have been possible. Thank you for being here representing your organizations. Thank you for representing. Thank you, North Texas Pride Foundation. We are so thankful for you. Thank you for representing your organizations. Thank you for representing your individuality and being here with us today.